Yes, my good people, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Guys, never and ever play with the William Samoei Arap Ruto. Kama wewe ni politician mdogo, don't even try even a single day kucheza na William Samoei Arap Ruto, the president of the Republic of Kenya. I don't know why is it that kuna politicians wadogo wako upande wa ODM. They are now forcing themselves kuingia kwa William Ruto. Sijui ni kwa nini. Even kufikia saizi guys, nini Nyoro na regret? Why is it that he decided to support William Ruto fully? Aliamua ku attack Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, na ni mtoto wao wa Mount Kenya. Akaamua kusupport William Ruto. He is regretting now in this video. Guys, in this video don't try to swipe it up because tunataka kucover kila kitu ambacho kinajaribu kufanyika hapa nchini Kenya. First of all guys, tunaelewa kwamba Ndindi Nyoro is a member of parliament kutoka Kiharu constituency. And don't forget that William Ruto appointed Ndindi Nyoro as the chairman of the National Budget Committee hapa nchini Kenya, wakati ambapo William Ruto alikuwa anaingia ushukani, because he believed that hama jamaa wamemsaidia na kuna uwezekano ya kwamba huyu Ndindi Nyoro pia future yake William Ruto alikuwa anataka kuishape in 2032. So baada ya Ndindi Nyoro kuonekana kwamba hakusupport finance bill na hakusupport impeachment ya Rigathi Gachagua, William Ruto amekuwa akifanya uchunguzi zaidi kwamba huyu jamaa there is something huyu Ndindi Nyoro anajaribu kucheza, because unajua ukiwa pale kama chair of the national budget kuna do unaziunda. So William Ruto believed that huyu jamaa bado anaendelea kuunda hizi do, ndio nilikuwa nimempatia nafasi akae pale aendelee kuunda do ili 2032 ako na finance ya kufanya campaign kama president of the Republic of Kenya. So William Ruto amerealize ya kwamba huyu jamaa bado anaendelea kuunda do pale, so let me kick him out. Ameshatolewa but sasa bado Ndindi Nyoro amekubali kutolewa, but sasa bado William Ruto ameamua kuendelea kumpiga zaidi. In this video you are going to be shocked. William Ruto even now anajaribu kuchunguza Ndindi Nyoro jinsi ambavyo amekuwa akitumia pesa akiwa pale kwa chair of the national budget, na anachunguzwa akiwa na huyo member of parliament wa Mogotio, member of parliament wa Mogotio anaitwa Ruben nani Kiboreki. Huyu jamaa ni best friend wa Ndindi Nyoro, and now wamekuja kurealize kwamba hao majamaa wamekuwa kishare hizi do. Huyu Kiboreki akikuja kwa Ndindi Nyoro ana approve. That's why unaona kwa constituencies za hao majamaa wawili eti na maana ya kwamba wamefanya miradi zaidi, wamefanya maendeleo zaidi kuliko hawa MPs ambao tunaenda kuwasikiza pale ndani saizi. So guys, Ndindi Nyoro pamoja na Kiboreki wameamua kushambuliwa vilivyo. And now Ndindi Nyoro is trying to he is regretting joining William Ruto. Unaona watu wangu? So we want us just to listen kila kitu hapa ndani ya hii video. But before we listen guys, ensure umelike video. Kama kawaida, I've been telling you that hii channel imekuwa ikisupportiwa na wewe na imekuwa ikishikiliwa na wewe. So sina budi ila nikusema thanks so extensive kuendelea kusupport hii channel. Na zile moments tunaenda kuchukua kulike hii video, acha Mungu aweze kuonekana na akutetee saa hii kwa minajili ya kutetee saa hii ili ukaweze kuprosper hapa nchini Kenya. Na wale wageni ambao wanatazama kwa mara ya kwanza, please guys, kwa mimi mikunjufu ensure umelike video ili umelike video na umesubscribe hapo chini ili tuwe familia kubwa tena zaidi. Kwa hivyo guys, without wasting time, first of all I want to listen to Junet Mohamed. William Ruto ametumia hama jamaa Junet Mohamed and Kimani Ichung'wah kusilence Ndindi Nyoro ama kuendelea kufichua mambo ambayo Ndindi Nyoro amekuwa yakifanya. Alikuwa anatoa wapi hizi do akiendelea, kwa sababu sasa wanasema kwamba kila klasi ya huyu jamaa iko na tile, kila shule yake iko na tile, pale Kiharu constituency. Sawia na nani? Na Ruben Kiboreki. Kumewaka moto. Sikiza.
Mr. Speaker, what has been happening the last 2 years in the Budget and Appropriation Committee of this House, Mr. Speaker, borders criminality. If we lay bare, Mr. Speaker, those things, as has been discussed in the retreat we had of the leadership in Naivasha and also in the House Business Committee, Mr. Speaker, those issues, those atrocities, Mr. Speaker, cannot be shied away from talking about, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how on earth can one county have an allocation, budget allocation of 12 billion shillings and a whole region has 60 million shillings, Mr. Speaker? What kind of country are we living in? Mr. Speaker, the Budget and Appropriation Committee went around the country to do public participation. And they ended up agreeing that they are going to use 2 billion shillings to allocate to those counties that they are visiting, Mr. Speaker. That amount ended up ballooning to 12 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. And the beneficiary of that 12 billion shillings is not those counties that public participation was done on, Mr. Speaker. It is other counties and other constituencies, Mr. Speaker. The Budget and Appropriation Committee of this House has reached to the level where the chair of that committee, Mr. Speaker, now, members of parliament are going to his constituency for benchmarking, Mr. Speaker. Benchmarking. And all of us are supposed to receive the same amount of NGD-CDA, Mr. Speaker. What is making members to go and benchmark in a colleague's constituency, Mr. Speaker? Because the colleague is receiving more funding because of him being the chairman of the budget committee. Let's be honest to Kenyans. Let's tell Kenyans the truth, that he was sitting in an advantageous position of chairing that powerful committee of the House, which you could do skewed allocation of resources to his constituents, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, which member of parliament here can afford through his NGCDF to build classrooms, plaster them, put windows, put roof, put tiles in the classroom, cabros in the... Mr. Speaker, which member of parliament can afford to do that here with a mere resources of 100 million shillings, Mr. Speaker, and advertise on Citizen Primetime News? Which member can do it? Can you raise up your hand if you can do that? None of the 349 members of this House, Mr. Speaker, can afford to do that. That can only be done by somebody who has access to bigger resources than any other member, Mr. Speaker. The Budget and Appropriation Committee did not start the other day. The distinguished leader of the majority party, Mr. Speaker, has been the chair of that committee for many years. And he has never done those things. I have been with him in this House. He has been very careful and he has shared the resources of the country equitably, Mr. Speaker. I can say that without any fear of contradiction. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind members of this House, for those of us who have been here that time, who have been here for long, when the Budget Committee was chaired by Honorable, what was his name? The Member of Parliament from Embu, the Reverend Mutave Musimi, Mr. Speaker. Members of that committee did the same thing they have done the last 2 years. And one afternoon, the late Honorable Jacoyo Bidiwo came to the House, and he was seated exactly where I'm sitting today, and told the House the amount of money the Budget Committee put for themselves in the budget, Mr. Speaker. And the whole committee, that time, the membership of the Budget Committee was 52 or 51? 51. The whole committee was dissolved. And a new committee was formed, Mr. Speaker, based on what Honorable Jacoyo presented to the House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if the Budget Committee does its business the way that the refunct committee has done, Mr. Speaker, the only option, the only solution to Mr. Speaker, that's available for this House is to convert the 349 members of this House into a Budget Committee. The whole House becomes a committee of the budget, Mr. Speaker. But as leadership and as parties, we have given responsibility and priorities to certain members. And especially on our side, and I'm sure even on Kenya Kwanza's side, we have picked one member per county from different regions and different counties. so that they can represent the interest of those regions and those counties and those constituencies. But Mr. Speaker, it looks like the committee now sits down and agrees on how to share the resources among themselves, forgetting that they are representing Kenyans and they are representing the whole House, Mr. Speaker, in that committee. As the majority leader has said, we will not desist, we will not hesitate to remove any member who behaves like the defected committee, Mr. Speaker. I know there are remnants who have remained in that committee from the previous committee. I don't want to mention their names. We are giving them a warning that if you are not going to share the resources of the country equitably, Mr. Speaker, we will de-whip them and we will discharge them from the committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I saw, I don't want to mention names, an old man who has started a polytechnic which has 10,000 people. And he talked about his polytechnic very passionately. And he said he's requesting the executive to give resources to that polytechnic. And the polytechnic has 10,000 students. Mr. Speaker, in their wisdom of lack of it, through the chair of the committee and the committee, gave that polytechnic in Bungoma 25 million shillings and gave another one in another place 250 million, which has only 2,000 students. Was it 10 million? Yeah. They gave only 10 million there, and the other one they gave 250 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. We are going to name them. Mr. Speaker, we will not allow, because this is the House that takes care of the interest of the people, of what is concerned to the people, is discussed here, Mr. Speaker. And this matter of skewed distribution of resources, Mr. Speaker, look at what's happening in the road sector, Mr. Speaker. It's shameful. In the road sector, Mr. Speaker, there are counties that have not seen any cent to tarmac any road, Mr. Speaker. And there are counties that have been having money every year, every month to tarmac certain roads. In fact, very soon, if we continue like this in the next 5 years, there are counties that will donate tarmac roads to others. They will say, take this tarmac and put it somewhere in your county. You can return it back after 2 years. Just use it for 2 years. Because they don't know where to put it actually. Mr. Speaker, I support the majority leader. This country can only prosper. This country can only go far if, as the representatives of the people, we become equitable in sharing our resources, Mr. Speaker. And that is why the Constitution gave us a mandate to look. Otherwise, the Treasury should bring a budget here and we just approve it as they have done. Because the previous Treasury, the previous Ministry of Finance under the previous regimes used to do very dangerous things in terms of sharing of resources of the country. That is why the new Constitution and the framers of this Constitution felt it fit to bring that mandate to the House. And now we want to allow that mandate to be abused in the House, Mr. Speaker. That will not happen.
Unaona watu wangu. And don't forget that Kimani Ichung'wah pia anaongezea zaidi. Sikiza.
Now reconstituted a new budget and appropriations committee. Let me be on record. It will not be business as usual. This House will not sit back and allow members who sit in the Budget and Appropriations Committee to use the position they hold in that committee to appropriate money to only their constituencies at the expense of other Kenyans. Because all these 349 members come here to represent people. They come here to seek and lobby for resources to go back to their people. That is why the people of Vihiga are crying today. It is sad that you would find in a county that was to benefit from public participation, a national polytechnic in a county that was slated to benefit for public participation, getting a meager 10 million shillings, whereas in another county where a member in the Budget and Appropriations Committee sits in, a national polytechnic gets 250 million shillings. It is immoral. It is unethical and very unprofessional of us who sit in those committees. And I say it will not be business as usual because we have agreed as the House leadership, both in the majority and the minority party, that those who get the opportunity to sit in whichever committee you sit in that committee to ensure that there is equitable allocation and share of resources across the country. And we will make sure that that happens. I therefore wanted to urge the Honorable Omboko and the other members who are affected. I will engage with the National Treasury to ensure that those counties do not lose on account of the actions of the former Committee of Budget and Appropriations, so that within the next financial year, because they are now preparing the estimates for the next financial year, we factor in those counties that should have benefited this year and those that ought to benefit next year. But let this serve as a warning bell to the new committee. I know the committees are slated to hold their elections tomorrow. Whoever you elect in those committees, especially the Budget and Appropriations Committee, because it is one of the 18 committees whose mandate lapsed, and there are new members in that committee. An opportunity to serve in the Budget and Appropriations Committee of this House is not an opportunity to enrich yourself. It is not an opportunity to allocate resources to your constituency or your county or to those who you think are your friends above others. You must ensure, as members of that committee, there is equitable and fair distribution of resources, not just those in public.
Unaona watu wangu? And don't forget, ikawa ni kama haitoshi kwa ama jamaa. Speaker of the National Assembly akaongezea. Sikiza.
The leaders have spoken. I just want to advise the House that the Holy Book says, for everything you do to others, expect it to be done to you. For everything you do to others, expect it to be done to you. If you feel it's happy and fair, then it is good. And this constitution, like Ichungwa said without referring to it, the centrality of this new constitution is equity, fairness, and justice. And for all of you who have been given the privilege to serve in committees, you are public trustees. You don't represent yourselves. You represent the country. Because if members of a committee of privilege only work for themselves, how will a member who serves on the library committee ever do anything for their constituencies? So I want to encourage you, and majority and minority leader, please exercise your duties, your responsibilities to ensure that this democratically elected House discharges its duties and responsibilities to the satisfaction of every Kenyan in every part of the country. That a person in Mandera, a person in Vanga, a person in Lokitang, a person in Malaba does not sit in this House to get fairness, because we all have a duty to discharge fairly. So Mboko Milemba, thank you for bringing that point. And majority minority leader, as you have assured the House, move and correct that anomaly so that we have fairness. Those serving in the Finance Committee, you know, I sit in my office and almost everybody wants to serve on that committee. Now I understand why. The Budget Committee, sorry. Everybody wants to serve on the Budget Committee. Now I fully understand why. Budget Committee. Not Finance, Budget. So those who serve in the Budget Committee, you are the trustees of public good. So as everybody else. Whether it's transport, whether it's energy. I get a lot of information. I just encourage you. Many of you are doing your second term, first term, a few doing third term. If you have to live longer, be fair. If you have to live longer, be just and be equitable in everything you do. Thank you. Farah Maalim.
No, watu wangu. And Wetangula anasema vizuri tena zaidi kwamba chenye unafanyia mwenzako leo usifikirie ni mzuri, ama pia ujue utafanyiwa. So ni yeye ndo mtu wa kwanza kuendelea kwanza kusupport impeachment ya Rigathi Gachagua. Juu yeye anafaa kuwa neutral, but anakuanga side moja. So pia yeye mambo yake yatachemka. Kwa hivyo guys, allow me to air from there. Amraipenda Evans, kwa tuna siku njema. Your thoughts uniambie kwenye comment section jinsi ambavyo mambo yamechemka hapa nchini Kenya. William Ruto is trying his level best to make sure hawa wanasiasa wadogo wadogo hawa William Ruto lazima wenye wanainua vichwa anataka kuwamaliza ili wasije wakamuover turn in future. Unaona watu wangu. Kwa hivyo guys, kuwa na siku njema. Bye bye.